I'm running.
Just
Randy
watch
says
the flashing red
we're
light.
live on air.
Just watch the flashing red light to keep you awake, or give you a seizure, one or the other.
That's quite the Halloween get up.
Yeah, well, it's almost there. I don't think we're doing one on Halloween, right?
We've got quite the crowd started here. I see Measuring Grains out there. Some of the folks here on the panel. I see. I hear an echo there somewhere. Or
Uncle Jim here.
No, actually, I think somebody's watching Eagle Eye's new video in the background there, probably. I see Janito out there from Argentina. Welcome, brother. I first met him when we were doing the VidMe thing a year ago. Robin Snodgrass is here. Fuzzy's here. I saw Chico out there. I saw the Big Man's Outdoors. First time I've seen him in a live stream, but encountered him a couple days ago in Slack. Great guy. So welcome, brother. And I'm sure the crowd will grow a little bit. Let's go ahead and go down the line real quick and introduce ourselves and what our channels are, and then we'll see where we go from there. Let's start with you, Josh.
All right. Well, my name is Josh. I run the 243 Outdoors channel. I do a little bit of reloading, shooting, long-range shooting. I recently got into casting bullets. So I'm working on some cast load. As soon as the weather and everything cooperates, hopefully the next couple of days, I'll be out testing them.
Outstanding. Now, I'm sure it won't be soon, but I'm really looking forward to the point where you combine your mile-plus shooting with your cast bullet experience. So
that'd be great.
Right now, the goal is to maybe take a cast bullet to 500 yards. So we're gonna start with that.
All right, Cranky, why don't you introduce yourself?
Cranky Cleatus. Channel is Cranky Cleatus. I mainly do reloading, casting, videos, powder coating, high-tech coating. Been working on some 38 357 loads recently, and I'll be starting on some 223 cast bullets that people have sent me. That'll be my next adventure. Never shot cast in 223 yet, so it'll be the first.
I'm looking forward to that kind of eagerly because I've got an AR-15 sitting here that I've never reloaded for, and I've certainly never put cast through. So I'll be watching that with keen interest.
And it's a big savings. Big savings.
Mr. JH.
Thanks for having me, Mr. Bacon. I'm Jamie. I'm JH586 channel. I've been working on some 35 Remington load development. I saw Josh sent some you got some 223 bullets from New York City, right?
Yep.
And somebody commented on somebody's video. It was Bigger Behind the Trigger, wanting to know if he should buy the Lee 225 55 grain flat point. I told him that I had that mold. New York City has it, and several others. I think a lot of us are just about to be pushed into that reloading cast for 223s and ARs. I have a Mini 14. I want to try them in as well as a AR-15. So I think a lot of us are getting pushed that way. Thanks, Kevin.
My pleasure.
Now, if you look across the panel here, we got a pretty diverse mix tonight. We got some guys that spend most of their time shooting long range. We got some folks that do a lot of reloading. We got some folks that do a lot of casting, but we've also got some folks that don't do any of those things. And Kentucky Patriot, why don't you introduce yourself? You're new to reloading, and I don't believe you've ever cast anything, but certainly have an outstanding channel.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm sure glad to be here, and please forgive my appearance. We had 2 soccer games with my kids and about 30 miles away, and then had a household shower at the church, and then we come back, and my little boy wanted to go squirrel hunting, so literally I've come out of the woods, had a hat on all day, haven't shaved, so for that I apologize, but I did make me a cup of coffee out of the Reloaders Network coffee cup, and I appreciate you guys, appreciate being here. I've just got a hillbilly in the woods channel, but the only way I know to describe it. I just like to shoot, love the outdoors, love my kids, and we just had a fall festival at our school, and I just got a trunk load of pumpkins. So I've got some ideas for those pumpkins. Literally, my wife's car, she's got an Equinox, and it's filled to the ceiling with pumpkins. So I could think of a few ideas for that.
Yeah.
But we just usually I'll just have an idea about something and just make a video with it. And the reloading is new, and it's really all due to Loads of Bacon and Thorax. Those guys have helped me with reloading and got me started, and I appreciate that because I've got some big bore, like 45 long colt, and especially the 454 Casull, that if it wasn't for you guys in reloading, I wouldn't be able to shoot it near what I'm able to shoot it. And I appreciate you guys, appreciate this group, and I'm just thankful and just appreciate you guys having me, letting me be a part of this.
Now, I will throw out that with this many people on the panel, it is a real challenge to try to keep up with all the comments on the text chat. But I do see Major and Grains out there saying that he used that same mug today. But if I'm not mistaken, he didn't fill it with coffee. He filled it with bacon grease. So
that works too.
Well, we got our Halloween decoration in the middle there. What's going on there, Kevin?
How you doing? I think you got other people before me. You want me to go? I'll certainly go ahead.
Go for it.
So I'm New York City Reloader. I'm behind enemy lines making ammo in a blue state that hates guns. I get dirty looks when I wear my Confederate flag vest. I get dirty looks when I'm coming back from the gun range with 9 guns. I get dirty looks when I get in hazmat shipments full of gunpowder and primers and all that stuff, and weird looks. So I have to hang out with you guys to hang out with my own people. So it's nice to hang out with this community and hang out with y'all. And even though I'm a born and raised Brooklyn boy, I traveled all over as a Navy brat, and I got the bug for shooting and hunting and reloading and riding and you name it. So here I am still behind enemy lines trying to keep our end up. And don't ever come here. Cleveland's like, don't come here. You don't have to. Come to visit and look, but don't stay.
There's something about that background of the low light, you saying, don't ever come here. It's just it's perfect setting.
Let me make it better. Here we go.
Yeah.
Don't
come there.
Don't come here. Don't go. Stay where you are. Now you're all welcome to come.
Wherever Fuzzy is.
Let's kick it over to the Scotsman there.
Appreciate the link. Always good to be here with you, gentlemen. And I say that very, very loosely. But it is a pleasure to be here. I have fun on my channel. I reload. I'm experimenting with some heavy 9mm bullets. There will be more videos coming on that. There's been a few things happen this past week where I'm probably not going to make a video for another week or two, other than some fundraiser stuff to help out the family of someone that is no longer with us.
Hey, Scott, why don't you go ahead and take a minute and expand on that a little?
So for those of you guys that don't know, Ed USAF was a great brother, a great friend on YouTube, and unfortunately he passed away on Wednesday morning from cancer. He'd been fighting the battle for a good year, and he was always the one that was selfless and said, help out C-Max, help out Mr. Holster, don't worry about me. And unfortunately, he lost his life on Wednesday. And for myself and a few others out there that knew him pretty well, it's been a tough week.
I didn't know him personally. I've chatted him before as far as comments and stuff, but he was a wealth of knowledge. He did great videos. Really nice guy.
Yeah, he was an awesome man, an awesome friend, and I got some things going to help raise some funds for his wife to pay the bills and get through this.
That's one of the nasty things with cancer too, is that not only does it leave a family behind, but it leaves a family behind with a bunch of medical bills to pay off too.
Yeah, and I know his bills were getting bigger and bigger. They took him in over the weekend there, and he, I guess he had fluid around his heart, and they were thinking it was from a previous surgery. His heart failed twice. They brought him back twice. They had to put him on life support. He didn't want to be on life support. That was part of his thing, but they kept him on life support until the rest of the family could show up. And multiple other organs failed during that time to where there was just no way they could save him.
Yeah, you could tell by the outpouring, just the other YouTubers, the number of them making heartfelt videos in the last week, just the impact that guy's had.
Yeah, we have a hashtag out there that's pretty cool and pretty, you know, if you guys knew Ed, or if you even watched just a couple of his videos, you'll understand. But it's hashtag Be Like Ed, because Ed was an awesome man. He was always selfless and always thinking about his other man, his fellow brother, and didn't want anyone to concern themselves with him. He always concerned himself with everyone else.
Thank you, PC.
Yeah, I can name a number of people that are pretty impacted by his loss. So, hey, Curtis, that's going to be a tough act to follow. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Got nothing that can measure up to that. I wasn't familiar with the gentleman. I think I'd seen the handle a few times, but I hadn't ever seen any of his content. But then after I saw a couple of the fellows, you know, with the remembrances, I scrolled through a few things, but I haven't had a chance to see a lot. But it's sad when we lose someone that's part of what we do. It's a small community, especially online, you know, and I appreciate that the Scotsman has helped out so many of these fellows that have been in similar situations.
Absolutely, and still is right now.
As far as the introduction goes, I'm William C. Chapin is the YouTube channel. A lot of the guys call me Curtis. I'm a shooter, reloader, caster, collector, just about the whole gamut. Spend a fair amount of time at the range. I'm happiest when I'm there about 3 or 4 times a week. I also enjoy a lot of shopping. I like going to gun shows. I like just driving around and finding old gun stores and seeing what I stumble across. And that's a big part of the hobby for me. So I have a 15-year-old son. He shoots a bit, and we're kind of looking forward to maybe getting out into the woods and cornfields here in a few weeks, see if we can get him some luck with some whitetail hunting. And that's what it's all about.
Outstanding. Let's kick it over to Mr. Social Regressive himself.
Hey, I'm Kyle Broderick. The Social Regressive. I like to shoot stuff. I just love being outdoors. That's my thing. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really enjoy being outdoors. Love backpacking and all that sort of stuff. And for me, the reloading is just, you know, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a means to an end. It's like, I don't know. I don't get extremely deep into it, I wouldn't say, but it's like, you know, if I need to hit a certain target at a certain distance, you know, there's a certain level of performance I'm going to try to crank out of it. And that's kind of how I usually approach it.
For folks not familiar with Kyle's channel, check that out. And if I remember right, one of your videos just hit 1 million views.
Yeah. It was selecting a cartridge for the Axis Project rifle last year. Yeah, that one gets a lot of views and a lot of hate, because anytime that you select one cartridge over another, you alienate the rest of the shooting community. So it's good fun.
Indeed.
Controversy for the win.
But looked like a ton of fun recently when you In a minute, we're going to have you tell us about the recent trip to the big shooting event.
It was amazing. It really was like, I don't know, like Disneyland and Woodstock, but all with guns. Yeah, good times.
That was the IV-88 shoot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Outstanding. I see a miniature Kentucky Patriot on here. Hey, buddy.
Good. How do you?
I heard you were squirrel hunting today.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that sounds awesome. There's something about a camera. The kids just have to jump in front of it.
I told him I was going to be in here, not to be in here. And one of them, the phone was ringing, and both of them come running through here. And then the wind's blowing real bad here, so our power went out for a second. So he come through to tell me he was getting a flashlight. The next thing I know, he's peeking around the corner here.
You have to use reverse psychology on him. You have to tell him what you want them to do.
Oh, that's outstanding. And then I think we're missing one. I think we had one more guy jump on. Or am I counting wrong? I may be counting wrong.
I thought I saw a glimpse of Mike Treen.
Is that who that was?
Hallucinating.
Oh, there he is.
He's like a shadow. Witness protection program.
You're last man up to introduce yourself, brother.
Who's that?
That's you.
Me?
Yeah.
I've never.
You're up, slugger.
This is Rebel. I guess I'm a high-tech redneck.
Perfect.
All right, here's my introduction. Really into precision shooting, really into hunting. I was a director of plant operations at a large healthcare facility for about 25 years, and became lead HVAC technician, and then the boss. And then corporate just got on my nerves so bad that my wife said, "You got to do something else, man." I said, "I agree." 6 months later, she said, "Damn, brother, I didn't tell you to buy a gun store." And so I'm an FFL, and it's a small business. It's tough. It's really, really tough. And I haven't gone into that too much on the Reloaders Network. A lot of people get tired of hearing it. A lot of people say, "Well, that's just capitalism, man," and this and that, back and forth. And I know it is, but it's tough being the little guy. A lot of people have bad experiences at medium-sized gun stores and big box stores, and they get horrible advice from big box stores. That's what's led everyone to believe that the 6.5 Creedmoor is responsible for putting craters in the moon. So anyway, I like to give young men that have 6.5 Creedmoors a hard time. And when they ask me what I shoot, I said, well, I shoot a 2.6. Instead of a 260 Ackley improved, I say I shoot a 6.508 Ackley improved, and they get all impressed. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun on a gun store. I get to interact with people, and we mainly focus on reloading supplies, and you never, kind of like what was said earlier, you can never tell what's in my shop. I have right now a Winchester Super Grade on consignment, an old Winchester 52, and then the standard fare for everything else. So we're always trying to please our customers, but it's hard to make a living. It really is. And I I don't get any time to hunt, no time. And so last night, I hope I don't offend anybody here, but I have wonderful neighbors just to the west of me that own 15 acres, and they're Laotian. And they have a flower farm. And apparently they kill anything that comes into those flowers. Anything. So much so that the lieutenant game warden over 11 counties asked me about them. And I said, I wish you'd come take a look. So anyway, I had to drive a mile up the road.
The flowers.
Exactly. And they have 2 walk-in coolers, so they have a perfect setup. And I went up to a buddy's house about a mile away, and we've been glassing deer there. And about the only way, about as close as we can get to those deer is 450 yards. I'm a deer hunter, a deer shooter, and I know I'm capable of making that shot, but I always caution other people against making shots they can't make. So I'm horrified that I'm going to whiff a 500-yard shot, and I won't take it. I got pretty good control over this, and I won't take it if I can't. So, but that's me in a nutshell. I kind of got in on the conversation when someone was talking about cancer. I lost my mom to cancer about a decade ago. She died of the same type cancer that John McCain died of, and it affected my life a lot, broke the family apart. Kind of sucks. You know, cancer just sucks. It really does. Any disease sucks, but cancer really sucks. And I've got a sometime relationship with my brother, and my dad's remarried and off on his own tangent. So, you know, such is life. I reload because nobody makes ammo like I do.
Right?
I'm a big fan of Lapua brass, and a big fan of annealing. I've shot at 1,000 before. My goal is to go extreme, long range. I really don't have a cartridge for that yet, just to play around, you know. And the guy that's on the camera right now has got a dip in too. And so I'm not the only guy that's got a dip in.
Oh no, and that guy shoots long range as well. So
good.
We'll get to him in a second. So for folks looking for you, no YouTube channel, correct? But under the name Rebel at the Reloaders Network.
Yes.
What state are you in?
I'm in North Carolina. As if you can't tell that by my strung out accent. I can't hide it. It's just there. You know, it's just there. I'm surrounded by some of the best shooters in the country. My store has actually been in business for almost 40 years. And the man that ran that store, I became friends with, and he sold it to me. And he's more of a mentor and a business partner than he is a guy that I'm paying payments to for the inventory that was in the store. He really is sharp, has no college degree, cut hair for a living and sold guns for a living. And he's living on a better retirement than probably most of us will ever see, because he sold the business and I'm in debt to him. So, but anyway, he's a heck of a guy, and he has a groundhog shoot the first Saturday in April every year, and the whole thing is to shoot a groundhog target. And then I don't have one up here. I walked back to the bedroom so I wouldn't disturb my wife, but a groundhog target has approximately target silver dollar in the belly and dime in the head, and you shoot 3 shots at 100, 3 shots at 300, and 3 shots at 500, and the best score wins. Well, over time, that turned into people piling behind a really good shooting rifle, and 4 or 5 guys were shooting it at the same time, you know, or in different relays. So the last guy got the best information. He got all the feedback. And I absolutely asked Larry, I said, you need to make it more fair. So last year he listened to me and he announced 1 man, 1 gun. And that made people's hearts just absolutely sink, because people were piling behind $5,000, $6,000 bench rest rifles. It's not a groundhog shoot anymore. Yeah. You know, your local guys weren't coming out to the match because they didn't think they'd have a chance to win. Speaking of which, I've got a big buck contest going on in my store, and the first entry was a 13-pointer. I told him I'm not putting up the picture yet. He said, no one else will compete. I said, no one else will compete. I said, I'm putting up your picture last. Okay. So I hope someone beats him, but I doubt it. Anyway, enough about me.
Well, speaking of making nice guns, let's kick it over to Vaughn. I see Vaughn's Precision jumped in here. Go introduce yourself there, Vaughn, and then we'll start talking about some of that long range stuff.
Sorry, I'm late. Better late than never, maybe. Yeah, apparently Google can only handle so many people at once.
I think the internet can only handle so many of us at once.
Touche.
There's a lot of nicotine here.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I'm Kurt from Vaughn Precision, and well, I think well, I see a lot of faces I recognize. Yeah, I build long range rifles and do a lot of reloading and custom gun work, and FFL dealer, just doing stuff, man. Just doing a lot of stuff. Got a lot of builds going right now, and I don't know if it's so 243 outdoors. I know you saw the video, but you know, my son and I right now are right in the middle of building a couple rifles, identical rifles actually. We did select the 6.5 Creedmoor. I tell you what, the hardest part of this whole build is the paint. I'm struggling with the paint. Don't know if I should paint it camouflage or if I should leave it alone. And it's not necessarily the chassis, but it's the scope. Man, that's a tough call. But anyways, that's who I am. So, and Kyle, hey man.
Everything's better in camo.
I want to kick it over to Kyle. Kyle, before we got started, he threw out some suggested topics or questions, and I want to kick it over to him. And why don't you run with that? You had some a couple of thoughts there on Saturday load development and some things. So why don't you get that discussion going? And then I'm not a long range expert, so I'm going to sit back and listen.
Yeah, me too. Because my question is a little bit bizarre. I guess I better set this up a little bit because maybe some of the viewers won't know what Saturday load development is. It's where you basically you load up. I think it's usually 0.2 grains. You just work up every shot. You just go up 0.2 grains of whatever powder you're using within your kind of safe limits. And then, you know, it isn't shooting for groups. You just shoot, put it over the chronograph. And then you just kind of watch the curve of the velocities as they're going over your chronograph. And then supposedly where it starts to flatten out, that's going to be one of your best spots for velocities, at least. It's where, you know, if you have some kind of variation in your powder load, that it's still going to be very precise, you know, at least as far as those velocities go. So you're not going to get much vertical spread, especially as distances increase. So most of us are familiar already with ladder loads and with maybe the OCW, the optimal charge weight method, but the two might be working at opposite points. And I'm really curious to hear from, you know, some of you guys that have maybe done some more really fine-tuned load development. Is there a good way to make those two types of load workup, kind of meet each other? Because it seems like Satterley is all about velocity, and then your ladder loads and your OCW is all about finding that tight group, and what your barrel actually likes, that special, little node. Have you guys noticed points where they don't seem to coincide and you need to change something to try to get them to work a little better? I'm just kind of curious.
I don't know what Mr. Vaughn has to say about this, but
lots.
Well, he may totally disagree with me here. I would say that, and I've said this before, neck tension's everything, and seating depth is everything else. And I will tell you how I do it, and I don't know if it's the OCW or the Satterley or the whatever. I have a lab radar. I really enjoy that piece of equipment now that I've got the ignorant redneck bugs worked out of it. And it gives me very accurate, repeatable results that I can read downrange. But I'll shoot at 100 load development, and being I guess an experienced mad scientist, I'll hesitate to say reloader. I tend to skip up more than 0.2 of a grain until I start hitting what I think is perceived max. I look for pressure signs. I look for flattened primers. I look for ejector swipes. That's whether it's an AR or a bolt gun. And of course, you're looking for kind of the same signs, but they're going to be a little bit different with the two platforms. And I'll shoot at 100, and once I get my tightest group at 100, I'll step it out to 3, and 3 is going to show me what it's going to do at 5, and 5 is going to show me what it's going to do at 1,000, and it just goes on from there. Now, Mr. Vaughn probably has a very excellent way of eliminating some of those steps, but that's how I do it.
Well, I guess I'll chime in. So the Satterley test is a test for the reduction or the increase of standard deviation and extreme spreads. Now, you can have a really, really low ES or SD, but your groupings don't necessarily coincide with that.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's when I built my last Creedmoor, I got my SDs down to like 2.6 or something. It was crazy low.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was nuts. But that was not my best groups. So you can have a really, really good low SDES, which is excellent for long range as far as getting your velocities. You know where the trajectory is going to go consistently, but the grouping's not the best. So what I found was the best grouping I got from my Creedmoor was actually 0.177, essentially the size of a pellet from center to center in a 5-shot group.
Oh my gosh.
But that wasn't the case when I did the Satterley, and it all has to do with, it coincides with barrel harmonics. So the whip of the barrel is going to change your point of impact. So it's kind of a give and take. So what you can do is you can, and Kyle, you're absolutely right. It's all about that kind of the peaks and valleys, and you're looking for that flat spot in your ESSDs, but you may have to lean this way a little bit or that way a little bit to match the harmonics of the barrel. And once you get the harmonics correct and you're hitting that flat spot, then that is where essentially your best groupings and your lowest SDs and ESs are gonna land. So anything under 10 on an extreme spread is great. So you don't have to get crazy numbers like 2.6 or whatever. Quite frankly, anything under 20 is good.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you buy a new muzzle device to start all over, right?
Yes.
Right. Or, take the brand new gun and sell it and build more.
Yeah.
There was a guy on Accurate Shooter, and I can't remember the poster's name, but he actually drew a vertical line and had a tuner brake. And as he shot at the line, he turned the brake a click, a click, a click, a click, and then a click and a click and a click back the other way. And he actually made a sin wave over that line, which mimics your barrel's whip.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's remarkable to see. I agree completely with Mr. Vaughn's statement that my 6BR, everybody around here is this shooting competition, and I'm a hobbyist. You got to remember, I'm a hobbyist shooter and a killer of varmints. So and own a gun store. So I hang around with a lot of cool guys, but they're all talking about 4198, 4198, 4198. That's the powder. That's the new powder for 6BR. And I've been sticking with Varget. So I shot some 4198, and to be honest with you, I didn't really like the recoil impulse compared to Varget. It was slower. It was heavier. It had more barrel jump. And it had a really, really, really low ES. I'm thinking something like 3.2. And the groups just absolutely sucked. Then I went back to Varget that same day, and in front of two guys that aren't precision shooters but are good friends, I shot a 5-shot 47,000 screw. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. This build that I showed on the groundhog hunting article I did. This new build has a used barrel. It was a 30-inch Prama. It's been Krieger 1-8. It's been cut off 5 inches, and apparently it didn't satisfy somebody. Now it shoots like a house on fire. I love it. I love it. And but
maybe they were shooting 4198.
Probably. Now, I'm not saying 4198 is a good powder. A bad powder. I'm just saying that for me, okay, if I was just going by the numbers, it looked great. But I'm looking at what the paper's telling me.
Josh, you've been quiet over there. What are your thoughts on all this?
So I started out with just ladder loads. Basically, really, when I started loading for the 6.5 Creedmoor, started probably around 40 grams, worked up to about 42.5. So once I heard about this Saturday load, I basically kind of double checked my work with it, and I done it. I graphed it. I remember during my load testing, 41.5 of H4350 was a great shooting group, and I had a flat spot there. 42 grains is what I went with, and anywhere from 41.9 to 42.1 was showing a really good flat spot. So I just kind of double checked my work with it. Then before I went to Utah, I redeveloped my load. I was wanting a little bit higher velocity. I was running like 26.66, and I just basically done higher charges and come up with one at I believe it was 42.4 grains. But from what I do, it seems to work. It seems to coincide for me.
Josh, that's kind of funny because if I'm running 42.2 on the Creedmoor with H4350. And that's where I get the best results out of my Satterley. That doesn't equate to the best groups, but as far as my extreme spreads and stuff going down range, it's going to be my most consistent at long range groupings. No, I'm not complaining about the groups. I'm still getting under a quarter inch.
Yeah,
at 100 yards. So
have either of you guys tried Reloader 16 or 17?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I got some.
Okay.
Yeah, my experience with the Reloader 16 is it's a good powder, but my groupings grossly suffered. It's fast. It is fast, but Reloader 16 and 17 both were really, if you want to bump your velocity, that's the way to go. But I just, for the life of me, couldn't get it to group.
Yeah, I hear you.
I experienced it.
I had a friend that just built or had built a one of the Sherman short mags, the 7mm Sherman short mag, and he put a 26-inch tube on it. And I asked him, I said, "What's your goal?" He said, "To shoot a 180 burger, 3,000 feet per second." I said, "I don't think the physics are there." Well, he just laughed at me and this and that. Well, here we are 4 or 5 months later. He ain't got to 3,000 yet. Okay. He kept talking about Reloader 26, Reloader 26, Reloader 26. And I said, "You better be careful when you're playing with that stuff." And he pierced a primer and he goofed up his trigger and he had to have it reset. Reloader 26 does not play well. You're reaching for something.
I am.
yeah. Reloader 26. Reloader 26 does not play well if you're shooting 5-shot strings. You know, chamber temp and all that stuff. It's I don't know. Everything I've read, everybody's experiences, it just seems to be a little unstable. I don't know. I have no personal experience with that. So
he may not hit 3,000 feet per second, but he's going to hit $3,000 in damages pretty soon.
Yeah,
you can get all kinds of crazy stuff with crazy powders. That's the end of a barrel.
Yeah, you sure can. That's right.
And the guy walks in and says, "Can you fix this?" No.
Here, let me get my welder.
Right. It'll be great.
Send it to Uncle Jim's boy. He'll fix it.
Couple hose clamps and some duct tape. It'll be fine.
I have a question for you long range shooters when you get a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I shoot a 338 Lapua Magnum. Absolutely love it. I'm thinking about a 6.5 Creedmoor so I can shoot holes in the moon. Or the other reason is, you know, it's just expensive as hell to shoot a 338 Lapua. Man, does that thing love powder? Does that thing love expensive bullets? And, you know, them cases, you can anneal them, but they still wear out. It's just a lot of pressure. I went ahead and started using 4350 IMR, though. I realize there's the difference, but I can't get H4350 here, so I started using IMR. And I get really good groups with it, but I want to shoot long range. I don't really have an indoor range that's got more than 300 yards. I'm joining a club that'll get me out to 2,000 yards, which is great. But any advantage for me other than cost for 6.5 over 338 Lapua?
So a 6.5. So are you talking specifically Creedmoor then?
Yeah. Sorry, apologize.
Okay, all right. So there's a lot of benefits to the 6.5s. Short action, talking short action. So you've got much longer barrel life due to the reduced velocities. You've got really good chambering. They feed very well. You've got a lot of bullet options. You've got a fraction of the powder. The first thing that came to mind when you said you shoot a 338 Lapua, I'm like, that's the guy with the money in the group. You know, it's 6.5 Creedmoors. You know, whether you're shooting a Creedmoor, Ackley, a Terminator, 260 Remington, they're actually all very, very good, and they all take roughly the same amount of powder. You know, reduced recoil, reduced cost, super accurate, inherently accurate. All 6.5s, no matter what you're shooting, they're all inherently accurate. I think you'll probably find a lot more enjoyment. I think you'll find that you probably can shoot a lot more for the same price. Now, can you shoot 2,000 yards? Yeah, technically, but you know, right around that 1,400 mark, you're kind of falling into the transonic and subsonic zone, and so your bullets could tumble a little bit. But you know, you could easily get out to 1,600 yards, depending on where you're at. Too, it all depends on the elevation. So elevation has a lot to do with it. Just, you know, I'm at sea level, so I have real dense air. And if you're up at, you know, if you're in Utah up at 4,000, 5,000 feet, you're going to go a lot further. So, yeah, there's my 2 cents.
When I was shooting a mile here in Illinois, our elevation's like 457, and I was running 95, 96 MOA. And then in Utah, I was running like 73. It was a little bit faster bullet, but there is a huge difference in elevation.
Guys, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to jump off. We just lost power, and I had my phone charging while I was watching this video, and we're sitting here in total darkness, and my battery life is less than 20%. So, have a great evening, and sorry to cut out early.
That's weird. The screen's black.
Yeah.
So on the Kentucky Patriot channel, he covers prepping, as you can see.
Honey, grab the flashlights. You guys have a good evening. Take care.
Take care.
Great to have you on, brother.
You know, you're talking about the 6.5s, and Mr. Vaughn brought up a very good point. The 260 Remington, the 6.5 Creedmoor, the 6.5 47 Lapua, they're all pretty much doing the same thing. And they're doing it really, really well. Kudos to Hornady for their marketing. And they've sold a lot of guns for me, and they've sold a lot of ammo for me. And it just sounds sexier. I mean, 260 Remington, really? I mean, good God. 6.5 Creedmoor sounds so much better. And, you know, it's still, you look at it ballistically, it's all about the same. I tend to favor this 260 Ackley fell in my lap, but the 6.5 47 Lapua is really a darling. It really is. Very easy to make accurate. I have no experience with a 6.5 Creedmoor other than selling them. So, you know, still the 6.5 cartridges, I've killed one deer with that Ackley, and that was at 175. And it was like I hit her with a 300 Win Mag. The bullets just retain so much more energy. That was with a 143 LDX. And they retain so much more energy, and that brings to life a question. I don't know how many hunters are on here right now, but does anybody have any experience personally with the match hunting VLD from Berger? Performance on game. I've heard good. I've heard bad. I'm considering using them this year. And just wanted to hear your thoughts.
Depends on the game.
We're talking about southern whitetail average buck size, probably 140, 150.
I've never shot a Berger bullet.
Is that a cartridge JRB did a ballistics gel test on? I'm thinking it is.
The way the bullet's designed to work is it goes in, and the story is kind of funny. From what I understand, guys were hunting with Berger match bullets. However you feel about that, and not telling anybody about it and killing game with it. And then Burger found out about it, so they start doing their own ballistic tests, see a marketing opportunity, and come up with VLD Hunting, which is their old match bullet, and VLD Target, which is their little thicker jacketed version. All the guys I know that shoot competition shoot VLD Hunting bullets, not target bullets. That's just everybody I know. That's not everybody in the world, but just all the guys around here. And they shoot really, really fantastic. I use a 130 Burger in that 260 Ackley. I'm pushing it at about 2930 with Reloader 19. It's got 1,300 pounds, roughly, give or take, at 500 yards. It's plenty enough to kill a whitetail. But you hear horror stories about shot placement, penciling through, don't hit it here, you'll blow its whole leg off. But the thing's designed to go in and literally grenade, dump every bit of its energy inside the animal, which is conceivably a good idea.
Yeah, I have a little bit of experience with the Hornady match bullets, which are not going to be quite the same, but again, it's not designed for hunting, and in my case, it's been working great. Hitting a hog at 400 yards, just dropped that hog immediately. Coyotes, it's been doing a good job.
Yeah, I just had a customer come to me and say, "Do I need to switch my bullets?" And I said, "What are you shooting?" And he said, "I'm shooting a 308 with a 168 Match King, and I didn't know they weren't designed for hunting. And I've been hunting with them for the last 5 years, and every deer I've shot's died right there, DRT, just blown a giant hole in them." And I went, "I don't think I'd change what I was doing." It's kind of a tender subject on forums, and tends to bring up like 97 pages of people saying you're an unethical SOB, or yeah, okay, I use them too. It's something you should be hesitant to bring up if you're on any other gun forum.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I've dealt with it over the years in the industry as well, where the customers will come in and ask about this particular type of bullet, and the same thing, because of how much expansion and what it does, and just like you were saying, these guys will be freaking out because, well, I've heard that it's going to blow out the deer, it's going to blow this and do this and blah blah blah. What's the point of the game? The point of the game is take down the deer in the quickest way possible. So if you can make a bigger hole and get it done.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a fine squeaky chair there, Josh.
Hey, before we go on, that chair definitely reminded me of Uncle Jim, and I think Uncle Jim's still staring at Kevin. But Kevin, do him a favor and turn the light on just for a little bit there.
Hey, Georgia boy, will this fix it?
So I can tell you about a couple personal experiences I had with match bullets versus hunting bullets. The last deer I took was shot at 800 yards with the old school Hornady AMAX 162 grain. Check it out, Josh. Holy smokes!
Was that 7mm?
That was
Ballastol today.
Yeah, that was 7mm at 800 yards, and the bullet. So anytime you're looking at a target bullet versus a hunting bullet, the bonding is slightly different. The jackets are usually a little bit thinner on the hunting or the target bullets. But one thing I can tell you for sure is when the bullet enters into the animal you're shooting, it's like a grenade. It does not retain the weight, but what it does is fragment and blow completely apart, and you'll be picking little tiny pieces of jacketing and inner bond lead out of the deer. But there was about a 13-inch width wound cavity at 800 yards.
Wow.
And it didn't go far at all. Now, it also didn't poke out the other side. It didn't, it didn't.
Yeah, that was part of my question, was the other side. I archery hunt as well. I really like to have a hole on both sides of the animals. Bleeding out both sides always seems to work better for me.
Yep.
That's the big complaint with a lot of customers that aren't used to shooting the match bullets per se, is there's not an exit wound. There's not two holes. But there again, I say that shot placement's everything.
Yeah, shot placement is key for sure. Bullet performance is secondary. You can have a bullet make a complete pass through and and do lots of damage, or you can have a bullet that goes in and does not pass through, and then just grenades on the inside. Both are extremely lethal. So, I've seen the forums, I've seen the this and that, and I've heard both sides of the argument. I've shot plenty of deer with both. I've shot them with hunting bullets, and I've shot them with match bullets, and they die just as fast. I've never seen them. I've never shot a deer at any range with a match bullet that I had to track for a mile or anything like that. Usually 20 yards tops, and they're tipped over. They're dead.
Right.
So, when you're talking about if you're looking for a pelt, match bullets can be a little bit devastating, especially when you're talking coyotes or smaller game, because they will blow through both sides, and they just make a giant gaping hole, sometimes more than one.
This is a bullet that I'm going to be testing out here pretty soon. These are the Spear Gold Dot bullets that just came out. I've done some accuracy.
For the blackout?
This is going to be for a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Oh, okay.
So these are 140 grain rebaited boat tail soft point up here, and it's totally bonded to the jacket. So these should be killer for hunting, I think. And the ballistic coefficient is 0.571, I think. So it's still pretty high. I worked up some of the ballistics with my own hand load. I was getting about, 0.42 inches, I think, of the best with these. And, it still has plenty of energy. Like, I'm trying to think of how slick this was. I think it went subsonic at about 1,500 yards. Not too shabby.
No, that's not shabby at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm choosing the right bullet. It's kind of, for me, it's force of habit. I'm shooting Sierra Game Kings 30 caliber on my 308. That seems to do devastating, penetration, and one shot, one kill. I never have to go chasing after a deer because I don't like to chase after anything except for my meal. And I think everything else, I shoot 300 blackout. I go on hogs, and I don't buy a high-end bullet. I actually cast my 155 grain 30 caliber on a Lee mold, and been real happy with that. Take a hog, boom.
It's a bolt action?
What's that? No, it's an AR, 300 blackout AR. I have a bolt action as well, yeah, but I shoot it with my AR. When I'm going hunting for hog, those guys can be pretty pissy and mad when you shoot at them. So I want to be able to have a bunch of lead shooting their way if they decide to charge. So 300 blackout, I've had a couple of charging hogs and been able to take them all out pretty quickly with it.
Have you used the Spear? Have you used the Spear 150 yet?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, okay. That is, to me, that is a game changer of a bullet 300 blackout. We did some tests. A friend of mine and I did some tests on ballistics gel and downloaded that bullet to around 1350 impact velocity and got, I wouldn't call it expansion, I would call it deformity. That was about its limit, but at 1410, it just peeled like a gold dot pistol bullet. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Here's a Spear Gold Dot pistol bullet that I recovered a while back. Pretty much 100% weight retention. It's I love these bullets.
Yep.
I'm just trying to reduce my cost, and for me with the 300 blackout with the 155 grain powder coated bullet, it's just been devastating. I take hog with that all the time. Nice penetration. They drop right where I shot them, so I'm pretty happy with it. I think there's probably some other bullets that can do more devastating internal wound channels and stuff, but wound cavities, wound channels. But I think
you can't make them more dead than dead, though.
Yeah, I mean it's exactly the point. And you know what?
There is no degree of dead.
Yeah, exactly. It's extremely dead, right? But if I'm going to shoot a hog and he drops right there, and it costs me a penny from a bullet standpoint, 2 cents for a bullet is a lot better than spending 30 cents for each round. So
I'll tell you, a friend of mine, and we can go back to long range stuff here in a minute, but a friend of mine that I've encouraged to, me and Treetop Flyer met on 300 Blackout Talk. And a friend of ours, we're trying to encourage him to come over here to the Reloaders Network. And he's been a longtime caster. He's a disabled vet. He has a lot to bring to the table. He's an AR-15 expert. But he came up with his own bullet called the DS Special. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. And 65 grain powder coated cast bullet. And he sent me a bunch of them. I shot it through redneck ballistic media, which would be wet newsprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really had problems catching it because it's so heavy. And finally shot it into dried layered North Carolina out-of-date regulation hunting books, which are newsprint. And just to catch it, and it picked the whole box up and turned it 3/4 of a turn and set it down at 50 yards. And I pulled the bullet out, and it was a gigantic turkey turd. It looked like that. And I can't imagine hitting a deer with that thing, but it's got the ballistic coefficient of that pumpkin that's behind you right now. but it hits awesome.
Yeah, Josh, I can't wait to see you shoot those 30 calibers I sent you.
Yeah, I still got them up here. I'll probably be playing with that in 308 here one of these days, but we're gonna play with the 223 first, probably for a little bit.
Yeah. I like going out hunting with my AR-15, and I'll take the upper from my 300 Blackout. So I pop that in the case when I go hunting, and if I have to, switch out and shoot the hogs, I can shoot some small hogs at 223, and I can shoot the big hogs at 30 caliber. I don't want to be one of those guys that's putting 15 223s in a hog. I want to take them down with one shot.
My next hog hunt, I had it on the last one, but I didn't end up getting to shoot a hog. I'm taking my 44 mag lever action.
There you go. Classic.
Take some hog with that.
Oh, speaking of, one of the guys in the comments before this, one of his suggested questions, it was from Thomas Pickering, said what iron sights are used by the folks in the panel and which firearms. And in this crowd, I'm guessing this is more a question for Cranky and Curtis. But with a long-range crowd here, let's talk about iron sights real quick. And are you guys shooting iron sights at all? I know I've seen a nice lever gun there on Cranky's reloading bench before.
Yeah. It had toyed with the idea of scanning our peep sight for it, but matter of fact, the reason my part 2 of my 38 357 video isn't, and I went to the range, I have to use the 50-yard at that particular range, I can't shoot the 25 yard, even if it's a pistol caliber, rifle. So at 50 yards with the, iron sights, I couldn't see what the hell I was shooting at. I just see the piece of paper. I got old eyes. What can I do? So, I've thought about changing sights, but right now that's the only one I'm using on it. Light right off and I shot it once with the iron sight. Put the scope on.
I'm sure Curtis has a rifle or two with some iron sights on it, but I'm curious if any of these long range guys that spend more on their scopes than a lot of people do on their rifles are ever willing to go back to a peep sight or an iron sight there.
The right platform, yeah. If I bought, and I'm a big fan of 4570, I have a Marlin 1895 and 4570. Would I dump a scope off of that and go with a Lyman Tang? Sure I would. That, my 444, probably my 44 Marlin lever action, and there's an incredible amount of precision when it comes to a good set of iron sights, but you're not going to get it with a buckhorn in a front post.
And my 44 lever action had a buckhorn, and I slid it off and I put a peep on there. But I replaced the brass bead on the front with a fiber optic, and I shot that thing at 100 yards, and the fiber optic covers up the entire target.
Yeah, they are big. They are big. And we used to have matches around here at 22 where no scopes were allowed, and so a lot of guys got into the Williams, the receiver sights, and the old Redfields that mounted on. It's not a technical term, but the little dovetail posy mount that you see on a lot of the old Winchester 52s. I've got a H&R M12 that's got them on there, but I have a 20 MOA rail and an old Redfield 30 power on it. So, but yeah, I mean, you can get an incredible amount of precision with those type sights. But with optics and long range, a guy that's somewhat talented can make Quigley look a little bit sad. I mean, I'm serious. It's a good scope is hard to beat, and that doesn't necessarily mean price either.
So if you watch Long Range Shooters of Utah a while back, they had a guy shooting a stock K31 Swiss, 6.5 Swiss or 55, whatever it is, and he did his milk jug in 10 or less than 10 shots open sight at 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it can be done.
Anything a Krieg can do, a Swede could do better.
Curtis, you've been pretty quiet tonight. What are your thoughts on the optics and the sights there?
Well, it's a little different here if we're talking about hunting, because I'm downstate Michigan, and until about the last 4 or 5 years, we were a shotgun zone. So back when shotguns really weren't all that great, we used to put the cantilever, it was like a receiver mount, and we'd put a small 4-power scope on them to acquire things quicker. And then we went through the black powder rage or muzzleloader rage for a while, and and then things started to change a little bit. But the realistic viewpoint down here is even a cornfield shot down here is 300 yards max, but there wasn't anything legal that you could really shoot that was repeatable at that range until some of the heavy duty muzzleloaders came around. Some of those ultimate muzzleloaders and whatnot. Those were valid 300-yard guns. So guys are putting bigger optics on those. And then, now in the last few years, they've come to allow us to use obviously handguns that are 38 caliber and bigger. And then we can now that are pistol calibers that are 38 and bigger, and they've got to be it's the same as probably as Josh's rules or anybody in Indiana or Ohio. It's like 1.30. I don't think 38 special is big enough, but 357 is, and it's a maximum of 1.8 inches. So now the game's changed a little bit. 450 Bushmaster's kind of taken over and become the thing now. All that being said, I was always a high-tech guy. I had shotguns with Hastings rifle barrels on them. We shot various Sabot-type slugs and things, and I always used a scope when I hunted whitetails down here. When I picked up hunting in here a couple years ago, I kind of had a retro flavor, and I went with a lever gun that was legal down here with just the sights that came on it because I hunt in the thick stuff. I might get a cornfield shot that's 100 yards. I'm not sure I would take it unless the deer was standing straight still and broadside. And the key thing down here isn't bullet performance or range. It's about getting them on the ground because you're hunting fields where if you get ground, it runs to the neighbors. And then you've got two guys in the woods arguing over deer and they both got guns. It's just not a good scenario. So I've done both. As far as target shooting, I do both. The only match I've ever won was open sights, so I guess I'm an open sight guy.
The last time I was out hunting, we were doing a little squirrel hunting, and we happened to run into a little herd of pigs, and all we had are these little 22s. And, fortunately, we had our sidearms, had my little pocket pistol, so, if I had to take a close shot with a 9mm, I guess I could. But we were kind of freaked out. Fortunately, we were looking around and we saw that it was just piglets. For some reason, there were no adults around, so yeah, we were fine there. But it really got me thinking that I think if I build out an AR for kind of more close quarters shooting on hogs, of course I love AR sights. I think that's the natural sight for my AR, and the scope is just an added benefit. If things work out and I can use a scope. But I'm actually looking at these sights now. It's called Diamond Head. Yeah. And I think just based on the little bit of testing I got to do with the IV 8888, I think if I put together an AR for hog hunting, I'm going to take those out because they just got on target real fast. So it wasn't so much about precision like some of the others were talking about. It was more about being a little bit closer up and just getting on really, really quickly. And I'm looking forward to that testing. Yeah.
I really like iron sights on ARs. I'm a little bit of an iron sight snob. I have Troy battle sights on one, and then one on our front post, and then I have a Knight's Armament backup iron sight that's worth more than the whole rifle. But one of the things I'm the most fond of is just a straight, flat top build with a front sight post, and I've got that Knight's Armament back up on the back of it, and then I've got it. It's not an expensive sight, but the Vortex Crossfire 2 red dot comes with that mount that's lower 1/3 co-witness, and it's just like shooting irons, but because the dot is right on the top of the sight post, and I've got it set at like 100-yard zero because that's where I do most of my, if I'm gonna shoot some prone or kneeling or even offhand, I tend to shoot at about 100 yards, so that's where I've got it dialed for. And that's the most fun I have with any of my ARs is just that style of shooting, and the lower 1/3 co-witness red dot just makes that iron sight stand right out.
My AR is an A2 style, still has a carry handle on it, so.
Yeah. They make some really cool mounts for those too, James, to put like Aim Point has a really high dollar cantilever that mounts in the top of the handle and moves the red dot up forward, scout style.
I know. If I get enough money to get one of those, I'm probably buying another 44 just out of habit.
They really work well. That might be the ultimate setup because it keeps the profile a little bit lower and the balance is really good. But that's with a good aim point on that front rail like that on a carry handle AR. Those are dynamite.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of good scopes out there, but I'm a Vortex guy myself. Not because they got better glass, they're better than anybody else's. I just love the warranty. When I fall out of a tree because I'm clutched sometimes and it's icy and stuff, land on my scope and then put it back in a box and send it back to Vortex and get a shiny another one. So I like that. I like that feature.
I'll tell you guys, this is, and you may hear me go on a rant sometimes. This is just from a small business perspective. I have one Vortex scope myself. I think they're fine optic. Leopold's had the same warranty as you described Vortex having for years. It seems to be that the optics community has become so competitive. That's the most competitive thing in our industry right now, is who's competing for the best. And I'm going to watch Mr. Vaughn grin here. Who's competing for the best, for the money, long range scope? Yeah, there you go. Who's competing for the best $400 scope? Who's competing for the best $250 scope? Vortex has done really well with that. Where I have a problem with them, and it's simple capitalism. It's a business decision that they made. Vortex requires you to buy so much of their product that for a small gun store, I couldn't offer any choices. Stop yawning, Mr. Vaughn. I know I'm boring. No, it's okay. I'm just kidding you.
It's all right. I own 0 Vortex scopes. I used to own several, and I refused to own one. Period. Yeah. End of story.
Yeah, they're the reason I don't like them is because they're not small business friendly. They are consumer friendly though, very consumer friendly. They're offering you. They have forced Leopold to play the game, and I don't know if it's cheapening their product or finding new avenues to manufacture things more efficiently, but. A lot of guys are buying the VX Freedom in my shop. I can't afford to do Vortex because I can't afford $7,500 worth of inventory a year. Just can't do it. Cannot do it.
And I understand it from a business perspective, but my biggest complaint with both Leopold and Vortex is they don't track. They absolutely do not track.
I agree completely.
So I, about 3 years ago, I sold every Leopold I own, and Leopold is just south of me. They're not that far away from me. I could literally drive down there and give them my scope and go home without, another scope. But they don't track, and I've chased my tail with them too many times, and. Granted, the warranty's great, but do I want to spend all my time sending it back and sending it back and sending it back? No, I just want a scope that works. And if it means I'm going to spend another couple $100 or $1,000, it's in the long run, to me, it's worth it because I need a scope that when I go out and shoot, no matter what I'm doing, whether it's competitive or hunting, I got to have a scope that works every time.
That's nothing new, Kurt. Back in the day, was the hot bench rest scope. There were 2 vendors that put tension springs at a 45 on the reticle on 36X Leopolds to make them track. They were popular for bench rest because they didn't move them around, but guys that shot silhouette, they'd have to do the mods to it because they were cranking the scopes around all the time. And that's where the weavers like the T10 and T16 with the micro track mechanism were so much better. And even now, some of the Citrons track much, much better, as do even the modern day weavers.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was curious to see what Mr. Vaughn thought of Citron scopes.
I think our friend Josh is the Citron guy.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead. I have 3 Citrons. I got a S1 H-TAC, and that's about $150 scope, and 3x9x40. It's been a very good one. I have an S-TAC 4-20. That one I picked up. I got a steal on it for $350. It's currently on my 22. It's an amazing scope. And then my S3 is on my 6.5, and that is just, in my opinion, it's one of the greatest scopes ever made. Tracks 100%. It has 100 MOA of adjust. Actually, it's 105 if you really click it all out. But it's kind of one of those buy once, cry once, but it is an amazing scope.
Yeah, I've got the S3. It's not mounted right now, but the S3 is a good scope. I have no complaints with Citron at all. They make pretty good scopes. I've never had it fail. I've got the Delta Striker. That's never failed. I've got the Tract. That's never failed. I have the Vortex Razor, and you can see a line around the ocular tube, which is annoying on low power. That's not mounted right now either, and it probably won't be. But currently, if I had to vote for a scope, I know they're a lot of money, but number one, SWFA has tracked perfect. I own like 6 of those for
I do too, Kurt. They're dynamite.
They are for $299. How do you do that?
What's funny is around here, a lot of the guys that shoot like F class, they have whatever they have, whether it be a Schmidt and Bender or whatever, but almost every one of those guys has an SWFA, typically the 10 power. It's the mill dot, but MOA adjust with the side focus. Every one of them's got one in a toolbox, and if their other scope quits tracking or have any problems at all, the lens is fogged, they take them off and throw that SWFA and finish the match.
Oh yeah, SWFA is a good scope. I'm really sold on the Tract. I really like the Tract optics. In fact, it's probably my favorite at this point. Delta Striker's really good, but it's pretty pricey. Of course, Night Force US optics and Schmidt and Bender, of course, are excellent scopes. But the boy and I, as we're putting these new rifles together, my next scope will be a Tract, the Toric 30 mil Ultra HD. That's just I just can't get over how I just love the scope. I just love it.
Yeah. I'm entertained by all the scope discussion. I really am. It's interesting to me. But I've got a 30-06 and I've got a 243, both sitting with a loophole on top. And my biggest thing I was looking for when I bought those scopes, they both have a 50 mil front end, and I wanted that because that's when the animals come out. It's when the low light is, and I wanted something to gather more light. So it's a 3 to 9 by 50, and it's only got 2 knobs. It makes the bullet go left, right, up, down, and there's no other the tracking is, did I move the gun pointed further up in the air,
Yeah, knocking my camera over again.
Well, for hunting, the loophole is fine. I think the criticisms that me and Mr. Vaughn are pulling out here are mostly with competition.
Oh, absolutely. And they're I think sometimes we forget that they're different worlds with different requirements.
Exactly. And I have Leopolds, and I have a Citron S3 10 to 50. I've compared it with a Night Force. Me and a friend of mine who builds long range, and I mean extreme long range rifles, like he went to Idaho and did a cold bore shot at 1.6 miles. He builds these huge cartridges, and he names them after himself. He just changes it enough, blows it out enough, does this and this, that. So he's a really little guy, but he's got a really big ego, and it's kind of funny, but he can shoot. And he runs a chicken farm. He's an ex-NASCAR engineer, and he has a shooting platform on top of his chicken house. And he invited me to go deer hunting, and we climbed up, and I was like, "All right, Ben, I weigh 100 more pounds than you, and I'm not dragging myself up this chicken house with a rope with 50 pounds of gear. All right, I'm going to fall through the thing." And he's, "Oh, I'll take your gear." So he took my gear up there, so I climb up there, and no deer show up, but a couple of squirrels show up on the corn pile. So he says, well, I like some squirrel meat. I'm just going to nick one. And he's got this 6.06 thing, you know, blowed out, named after himself. And I'm thinking he's going to blow this squirrel to pieces. And he calls a shot and he says, I'm just going to nick it under the armpit. And he does it at 456 yards. And I'm like, he goes over and he gets a squirrel and he comes back. He says, oh, that's a perfect shot like that. And of course, I shot at a squirrel, missed its head by a half inch. He was watching the vapor trail, and I was shooting a 6BR. He said, if you'd have been shooting my hot rod, the sonic boom would have killed him. And I was like, yeah, well, probably so, but yeah, whatever.
You know, I think there's two totally different worlds for scopes. And, you know, Bacon, like you mentioned, you get a hunting scope. And if I didn't have to dial, if I was just shooting 200-300 yards, maybe even 400 yards, and just doing a holdover on the reticle inside or something, I wouldn't hesitate for a second to use a Leopold or a Vortex. But, you know, when you're talking about dialing and being consistent on your dials, well, of course, for long range, you have to have that. And, you know, every scope, you know, Vortex and Leopold both say that their tracking is 1.050, but yet it's just not true. At least every scope I've owned from them, which has been a handful, it's not true. You know, some of them have been, you know, 0.995, some have been well over an inch. And so, you know, it is what it is. We all have different classes and different objectives to shooting. But you know, for what I do, I got to have a scope that dials really good. If I could own a Schmidt and Bender, let me back up. If I could afford a Schmidt and Bender, I'd probably own one. But you know, and glass to me isn't that important. Pretty much. Most glass that's out today is really good glass, just period, no matter who you're buying it from, as long as you're not buying like a, you know, Simmons or a Tasco or something. But you know, and I've shot some really nice scopes, and this tract here, this has got a excellent glass in it. Mm-hmm. But can I really tell a difference at a mile between this glass and Vortex glass? No, not really. Not, at least not in my eyes. Now, I do wear glasses, but, you know. So more than likely, you're going to be turned down to power because of Mirage anyway. Oh, I don't usually shoot past about 16 power tops, no matter what distance I'm shooting. Exactly. Yeah, most of them are, you know, typically I shoot right around 14, 15 on an average. So, but trackability on a scope is what's important to me. If I dial, you know, 15 mils or whatever, it needs to be 15 mils. Now, if I was out just shooting at rabbits or something at a couple hundred yards, Leopold and Vortex work great. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's my sweet spot too. 100 to 300 yards when I'm hunting. If I'm just looking to put meat in the freezer. Yeah, you know, that's why I use the Vortex for. If I go ahead with the Lapua, obviously I got a better Citron on that. But you know, for those, I haven't had any problems. I know other people have had problems with Vortex, but maybe it's because I baby them, maybe because I put them in a hard case and I'm moving them around, really foam pack them. And
no, brother, it's because you fall out of a tree every 6 months and get a new one.
You know, but when you send Vortex a scope back in a Ziploc bag in like 7 pieces. And they send you another scope, I just scratch my ass. I don't know how they can afford to do it unless they're.
I broke one, and you know, the return policy is they just replaced it right at the shop. You know, the shop says, "Yeah, we'll just give you another one. We'll send it back. They'll warranty it." And that's the way it was.
Yeah,
the 450 Bushmaster rattled the guts out of it.
The thing is, though, is you pay for that up front.
Yeah,
you pay for that.
Yep. I'll get my money out of it.
Yeah, you bought a lifetime supply of scopes.
I think
I got
scope
4
back in
strike
7
eagles.
pieces.
I got 4 strike eagles and a bunch of 3x9 in 50 crossfires. They're fine. They're fine. You know, obviously I want something bigger and badder for a long range rifle, but you know, just for meat gathering rifles, they seem to do a good job.
So, Kyle, what's your take on this whole thing?
Oh gosh, like you're saying, the glass is just getting better every day. I cannot believe how good some of these new inexpensive models are. Like that Bushnell Engage that I was playing with for a little while. Yeah, it's much better than I expected, because you know, you're looking at a scope that retails for about $300, and you know, really the color reproduction was excellent, resolution was great. I was able to see lots of mirage, and even with just a 44 millimeter objective, it actually was sucking in a whole lot of light, even down well past dusk. I could really see it as being a very viable hunting option, for somebody that wants to get something a little inexpensive. It's going to be reliable and still be able to see when we're getting down to those last minutes of shooting on deer. It's going to get the job done. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, I agree that the glass is just getting better and better and better all the time, and I think they almost have to, just for the competitive market that it is. You've got Athlon is fairly new, Tract is fairly new, Vortex isn't that new, but still not that old. Leopold, of course, is competing. I mean, they're all competing, and they're competing for higher quality, lower price. Yes. And so, at some point it has no other choice but to get better and better.
Yeah, people have been talking about how it's this great, firearms renaissance for the past bunch of years. But really, I think right now we're in the optics renaissance. Right now is amazing.
I agree. 100%.
You know what's not getting better? My eyesight. That's what's not getting better. It's getting worse. I was at the range today, and I was like, man, I got to do something. And I got bifocal, no lens bifocals, and I got to tell you, I had pulled my glasses down just so I could shoot, and I don't want to do that because of eye protection, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm going to go without the glasses and just go with a pair of regular eye protection, because the bifocals are just
that's what I do with pistol.
Go low.
Basically, I just lose the glasses for pistol and just put on a pair of eye pro.
Yeah. That's just
so when you guys are yelling at people to focus only on the front sight, that's because that's all you can see.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm getting there. I'm still shooting.
Unless you're nearsighted, then just pick the back sight.
Yeah.
All right, guys, it's past my bedtime. I'm gonna hit it. I'm on the East Coast, so I will talk to you fellows later. All right.
Well, appreciate you jumping on, brother. It's good to put a face to a name, and looking forward to. I know that work's got you busy, but looking forward to the next articles you got coming with. Yeah,
I'm 6 days a week right now through hunting season, and that means I'm not getting much hunting time myself. But man's gotta eat, so that's the way it is, and I'm gonna put some more precision stuff out there, and I'm a little leery of putting out long range hunting stuff out there. That seems to be all the rage these days, and there are a whole lot of people jumping into it that really don't know what they're doing. And I'm sure Mr. Vaughn can go on that. I appreciate hearing people talking about putting meat in the freezer at 100 to 300 yards, because that's within most people's capability, but they don't realize what happens in the field when you're trying to bust a shot way out there, and bullet flight time, spin drift, this, that, back, forth, and they just don't put that much thought into it. I have a group that goes out west every year that consistently pops shots. I'm sure the state of Colorado wishes that they didn't exist. That consistently pop shots at elk and deer at extreme ranges that they have no business doing. I mean, a Southern boy can't even judge range on out west or on flat ground. From where I'm from in the hill country of North Carolina, if I go down east, I'll look out there and say, well, that power pole's 400 yards when it's actually 750 yards. You know, thank God for rangefinders.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, good night, fellas.
Nice meeting you.
Appreciate you coming on.
Night.
You know,
all right, no problem.
We've been going at this an hour and a half. I'm sure there's still plenty of discussion just among the folks here, but I definitely want to throw out to the folks in the side chat as well. If you got a question for anybody that's up on the panel here, throw it out there, and if we don't see it, throw it out there again.
Don't throw it out for me because I am bowing out as well.
No, you're on the wrong coast to be bowing out this early, brother.
Except I have to get up and go hunting in the morning, and that's important.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yep. Going to take the boy out hunting, see if we can get a buck. We got fogged in this morning, so but we're going to jump up early and head up in the mountains and see what we can find. Hopefully something. So.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on. I knew you were supposed to be deer hunting today, but then I saw you posted a video, and we just came up. Or they got real lucky real early.
We got so socked in with fog, I couldn't see 3 houses down. It was just terrible, and I thought, well, there's no sense in going out because if it's foggy here, it's foggy up in the mountain there. So unless we get up way high, but the deer aren't up high right now. So
now, are you guys hunting blacktail where you're at?
Yeah, blacktails. Yeah, yep. So, but hey, if we get out and get one, that's great. But late buck's coming too, and we did get that turkey, so that was delicious too. God, that was good.
Good.
So, but yeah, I got to get my garage cleaned up real quick, pack my hunting gear, and take the boy out in the morning, and hopefully he can get his first buck. So,
real quick before you go, Vaughn.
Yeah.
We got one question here. Are Burris scopes any good? And, I can jump on this real quick. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know particularly about their tracking, but their glass is beautiful. What do you think of them?
So Burris scopes, it's been my experience, and I'll be honest, I've got little experience with them, but I do have some. I don't have anything negative to say about Burris. And I've watched some of the reviews on Tiborosaurus Rex, and he's got some really good things to say about him too, as far as the trackability, the repeatability. Those scopes, they seem to be holding up pretty good. Again, I don't have experience with those newer scopes, but I've owned some older scopes from Burris, and I got nothing to complain about. Those were good scopes. I've had them on pistols and rifles, and yeah, they're good.
I think Curtis has one on the gun he's holding there right now.
The bug assault. I got this out for the Georgia boy. I'm trying to figure out which Lee loader you use on the bug assault.
It's the big scoop, I think.
Later, Vaughn. Thank you.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for the invite. It's been fun, and I can't wait to do this again. It's always a good time. So,
see you, Kurt.
See you guys.
I appreciate you coming on.
You bet.
So I was telling a Georgia boy the other day, he had his bug assault video, and I think it was like 2 videos later, an ad for that popped up. So I told him Google was watching this. I said that was weird.
Yeah, this one was an add-on. Kurt was talking about SWFA scopes. SWFA does this Black Friday sale that's just dynamite, and I wait for it every year, and I bought a couple scopes and a couple of bases and stuff, and this thing was an add-on for like $5. I couldn't say no. I got it. My kid thinks it's great. He goes around blasting bumblebees and everything else with it.
I saw you pull that out at the same time I was swatting a big fly. It's buzzing around my head right now. So
those salt things are great.
Believe it or not, they work pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I tell you, Georgia boy gets he's using some sort of high velocity salt in his, because that Black Widow or Imposter or whatever it was, he vaporized that one. It was a goner. That must have been a real hunting salt rather than a target salt.
He probably grinds down rock salt.
Yeah.
Used red dot.
He takes it out of the shotgun rounds and puts it in the bug of salt.
Robin Snodgrass is saying he has an Athlon Argos. Hasn't heard a whole lot about the Athlon products. Anybody here have any experience with them?
I have a primary arms, which people say is the exact same scope. I don't know. The glass in mine is crystal clear. The tracking's so-so. It's a good scope for $200, but you might as well jump up to the SWFA, I think. But a lot of people use them. A lot of people like them.
Yeah, I've taken through a look through one at the higher magnification. I guess, is there only one? Is it just the 6-24?
I'm not real familiar with them.
Yeah, I know that it didn't quite stack up to some of the other glass I've been looking through lately, but not bad.
Yeah, this may be a great time for us just to dream about your vacation there, Kyle. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your range day there?
Oh my gosh, it was all over the place. First off, I just have to say that all the folks that we met out there were awesome. It was really cool to be meeting, of course, some of the other YouTubers or whatever out there, but really the manufacturers were wonderful. They had brought cases and cases of ammo. They're trying to put guns in our hands so that we can test these things out, and they were willing to talk about anything and everything. Really, really personable folks. One of them tased Kedrick, which made me very happy. Of course, he tased me too, so never mind. It's a wash. But yeah,
that was interesting. That was some sort of glove, wasn't it?
Yeah. He actually had two of them. These were apparently designed by a buddy of his in South Africa, and I guess developed for police use. So if you got to wade into a situation where someone, like maybe you're dealing with multiple rioters or something, basically anybody you touch is going down. It really hurts.
Be like, high five.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt nasty. I mean, I don't.
Oh, did I say that? I'm in high voltage. Sorry.
I really don't know how long he was holding onto my arm. It was probably just a few seconds, but it's like I don't really remember anything from it. I just remember the pain. That was pretty much it.
But you didn't go down either.
Well, he didn't. I did. I took a knee so fast. But, go ahead.
I don't really know if it's part of it or not, but I have been tased because just to see how it was a couple of times, and I think I'm immune to it for the most part because of my high garlic content. Being Italian and all, I think it's my garlic intake that stops happening. Does something with my chemistry or something.
Those guys from New York don't care so much. They just don't care. So you tase me, I don't care.
But yeah, some of the other things. I'm trying to think of some of the highlights. It was great talking to the guys at ShyTac for one thing. I'd really like to see if I can get one out on the channel because I have enough room now. I can get about 2,600 yards if I need to.
Wow.
And I think that we just had a really good chat. A lot of the folks that were out there, they weren't really long range shooters or precision shooters. So yeah, I might have an in there. We'll see. I'm gonna give it a try. But yeah, ShyTac was awesome. CMMG, they had some just bizarre rifles. That full auto that you see in everybody's videos that they're just leading off with, it was actually really controllable. Just a little 10.5-inch barrel, their tiny little muzzle brake, 7.62 by 39, just ripping them out really fast, and it just bounced right back on the target between shots. It was awesome. And some of the other things that really stood out that I hadn't really been expecting. Have you guys seen that TriStar compact shotgun? It's a little shorty bullpup based on a Saiga.
I saw you shooting that one.
Yeah. I was expecting that to just be a little gimmicky range toy, but no, it's actually set up really well. Like when I was tracking the clays through the air, despite that short sighting radius, it worked. I was very impressed. I want to play those. Yeah, just a lot of subsonics, a lot of suppressors, full auto stuff. You know, people were bringing out they had their A game out there, and we're going to see some really neat things on the market pretty soon. Like a lot of these integral suppressed rifles, a whole bunch of people were trying to bring out some of those, and they were accurate. Some of them, you know, would actually cycle their AR-15 parts. They had enough pressure, I guess, that they would, you know, actually cycle them reliably with subsonics, even full auto like that. It was really cool.
I can't wait to shoot suppressed, quite honest. I can't do it here in New York, but as soon as I move out of this place, I'll definitely get suppressors on all my good guns.
Yeah, and, you know, that's one of the things I was going to mention about you wanting to switch over to 6.5 Creedmoor. I think that's one of the great reasons right there, because it just opens up all kinds of other shooting that you can do. If you have a, you know, 338 Lapua Magnum, it's really loud, it's huge, you have to get big expensive suppressors and things like that.
It's much.
Yeah, if you get
like the big bang every time I shoot at the range, everybody stops.
But like, you know, with the 6.5 CMMG that we had, we were able to, you know, do coyote hunting and hog hunting and do it all quietly, which was kind of a nice thing. And since it was semi-automatic, we were able to jump quickly between the shots. And I think that's one of the things that I really liked about it. It's like every time I came up with some way of shooting it, and I was like, okay, I figured this rifle out. It's like, no, I could do something else with this. It just kept growing on me.
So what's the one thing you walked away from that event saying, wow, I can't wait to get such and such in my hands?
Oh, the Zero Delta Z9 pistol. Yeah. I'm not really a big pistol shooter.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me you said that, because you're that's certainly not what's featured prominently on your channel.
No, I am gonna actually. I don't think I got any video of it of this particular pistol, but it was incredibly comfortable. It's like someone took a Glock and just, I don't know, they really upped the ante. The sights were wonderful. The trigger was great, and it should be, because it's going to cost about $1,000. But it's going to be a very modular pistol. They're talking about being able to basically swap out anything, drop in new barrels if you want to go suppressed, stuff like that. But all that stuff doesn't really matter to me. I just want a pistol that has a really nice trigger. I want it to feel more like a rifle trigger. And I want it to have, I really like the way that a Glock recoils. So I think that might be the big one. Aside from all the contacts, it was.
I was going to say my Smith & Wesson revolver, you pull a hammer back and shoot it in single action. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best triggers.
Yeah. Can't beat a revolver.
I think I'm going to turn in, guys. I think it's that time. It's late here on the East Coast.
Yeah, appreciate you stopping by and hanging out. And I don't know, we depending on how conversations go, we may cut this off in about 10 minutes for everybody. But
I have one question for Cleatus. Cleatus,
sure.
I used to shoot when I lived in New Jersey for a little while. I used to shoot mostly shotgun when I did deer. Have they opened up rifles yet in New Jersey, or it's still shotgun and muzzle loader?
The only thing that they've opened up, I think, is like 22 for like stuff like that. Not on state property, I guess. So if you have private land, you can. But as far as deer, it's shotgun only. You know, you can go slugs or buckshot.
Yeah. So no fun.
Especially this part of Jersey, it's just everything is flat. There ain't a hill around. So
yeah. That's why I still hunt in New York and Pennsylvania.
What do you got there, Curtis?
While Uncle Jim was still here, I wanted to show him the rifle that he sent me now that it's all outfitted. It has the muffler now.
All right.
It's got the Harris. It's got the SWFA fixed 10 mil dot side focus. It's been upgraded to a Ruger Precision rifle bolt handle for a little more clearance from the scope because I've barked my knuckle twice already, so I did the upgrade on the bolt handle. And the cool thing is with the AR mag, I know Uncle Jim will appreciate this. This rifle will feed these. There's the camera. This is a little 32 AR bullet that's like 78 grains, and I'm shooting it with like 3.2 grains as trail boss for subsonic, and it's a total riot. I know that the ones with the rotary magazine are having trouble feeding little bullets, but with the AR mag version, it feeds them just fine, and so it's a worthwhile upgrade, I think, to go to the AR mag in them. It's too bad that you can't retrofit the rifle. The bolt is different. In these, Josh will probably see the differences too, because they have a whole bunch of cutaway on the bolt to work with the AR magazine.
I haven't seen
look a lot, but this thing is, I have 2 ARs in 300 blackout as well, but this thing is so fun. And the other bullet that it's really working well with is the 150 grain Lee 30-30 bullet like Georgia Boy has. I believe he has that mold. There's a 150 and a 170. I haven't done any with the 170s yet, but the 150s work really well with about 6.1 trail boss, and they cycle really well, and they're super quiet and fly well. So, but anyway,
the same rifle. But I haven't shot, because I can't shoot suppressed. I really don't loads. Although I did some of the missiles that 230 grain missiles that Kyle sent me. But I use the Elvis, the Arsenal Elvis mold, 145 grain, and I can push that with 16 grains of H110 and get it up close to 2,100 feet per second, and then 100 yards with it. Which I thought for the cast bolt was pretty good.
Uncle Jim's asking.
I like that.
Uncle Jim's asking if this will feed a 240 grain. I don't have anything that's 240 grain to feed out of it, but it does feed the Lee 235R bullet just fine. It feeds 220 Match Kings just fine, and it feeds the 225 Hornady boat tail hollow point match bullet very well. It's done great with everything so far. It's interesting though, because the magazine isn't quite as rigid as it is in an AR. I mean, it's in there good, but it's got a little bit of movement, but it feeds well. And this is a mag pull that came with it. I'm typically not a plastic mag person. I like aluminum AR mags. I have mostly Colt magazines, but I've used some 5-shot aluminum mags, some 10-shot aluminum mags, 9-shot Colt target mags, and 20-shot original AR-15 Colt mags, and it feeds out of all of them. So it's been real good.
We were talking about a little bit about hunting at various times. Are you guys, who that's left up here is going to do some hunting here in the next few weeks?
Probably not the next few weeks, but I'm gonna try to do some more coyote hunting. My brother got one of those. I don't even remember what brand it is, but electronic calls, and it flat called them out last year. So I'm really looking forward.
That's a Fox Pro, wasn't it?
Yeah, Turbo Dog. Turbo Dog is what it is. But it is a very good call, and about every time we went out, we seen something, whether we got a shot or not. Most of the time, my luck with coyote, if I'm facing one way, they come in from behind me. It's whatever way I'm not prepared to shoot, there they are every time. And my one video, I missed that coyote or wounded him. I don't know what the deal was, but I want to get some good hunts on camera, but it's so hard to do to film a hunt.
You do any hunting at all, Cranky?
No, not lately. Did some pheasant hunting into because for a long period of time I wasn't with guns. You know, I went from being late teens last year. I hadn't touched a firearm in all that time period.
Okay.
So asking about it, he's slowly getting there. So I think probably within the next year, get him his license and start taking him out.
We're planning on doing some more hog hunting. I don't know exactly when, but we have access to a big ranch that we know has quite a few of them out there, and yeah, I really like the speed of it when you got a whole herd of those guys, and it really is exhilarating. You know, when that first shot goes, they're gonna start doing something. You don't know what direction. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, what Curtis is doing? He's hunting for something. I'm not sure I understood the question.
I was just putting that rifle away.
No.
Was somebody saying something?
Oh no, I was just somebody gotten done talking and looked over and the chair was empty. I'm not sure if I've ever heard you talk about hunting that I remember.
Oh yeah, I've done a bit. I mean, I'm not avid. I enjoy it. I've had some of the best naps I've ever taken while I hunt. It's amazing how good I sleep when I go hunt. You get all bundled up and you sit there and it's so peaceful and fresh air. And boy, I tell you, I've fallen asleep so many times hunting. I don't even know I don't even worry about it anymore. I just take a nap and have fun with it. But yeah,
animals are sleeping. You might as well too.
Yeah. My son has showed some interest, so we did whitetail hunt a bit last year, and then back in the day we probably did more of it. 20 years ago, we were pretty, went on a lot. But then again, it was around here on friends that had farms, and you knew where the deer were, and sometimes it was a one-day event. Most of I think other than one, every whitetail that I've taken has been when someone else missed one. Because I had a corner where I sat at the junction of some fields and a stream, and I'd just sit there half asleep until I heard a shot, and then I'd just look in the general direction of where the shot came from, and lo and behold, Mr. Deer would come trucking down and run across the field, and he was tired by the time he got to me. He'd step up in a tree line and stop, almost in the same spot every year. So I just sit there and wait for somebody to shoot, and when one stepped in, that my day was over.
I don't think that's how most people do a deer drive, but if there's meat in the freezer, I say go for it, brother.
It's pretty funny because, when you're hunting with friends and you know where they all sit, you say, hey, well, how come you missed him? Missed what? I didn't shoot anything. What are you talking about? He was like, okay, whatever.
My buddy likes to tenderize him with his bumper.
Oh, boy.
How about Curtis finish his little story about his experience at the gun shop? I don't think we ever got
that's
there.
right. We were going to start with that. I guess we might as well end with it.
Oh, okay. Well, today I decided that I was going to do one of my tours of southern Michigan and hit a couple of gun shops, and my quest for today was 222 Remington brass, and I was successful. I found 10 boxes of Norma triple deuce brass and bought that. So I have 200 pristine, and then I found some loose Normas too that looked like they were new to me that I bought much cheaper than the ones that were in the box. But so I was successful, picked up some other trinkets too. Well, I've been fooling around with this AR-15 with a 20-inch 1-in-12 twist barrel, and I was thinking I'd like to mount a sight post up forward dissipator style to shoot some open sight with it. So it's got a full float tube and can lock into the sling real good. And I wanted to shoot open sight. So I bought a matched rear for it, and I wanted to do something on the front. And I was just kind of looking. So I was like, whatever I do, I'm going to have to do some work on because it's a pencil contour barrel. So I'll have to make a a couple of adapters. But anyway, so I was over where the ARs are in this particular store, and there's a handful of these tactical guys standing around bullshitting with two of the staff members. And, you know, I kind of stood there and listened, you know, to all the, you know, didn't say anything, just kind of waiting. Finally, the guy behind the counter looks at me, and I tell him what I'm looking for. I said, hey, one of the other guys had this box of parts. So he pulls this box of parts out, and I'm pawing through it, and there's gas blocks and stuff in it, but nothing I can use. And so I said, okay, well, thanks. And I give him the box back. Well, he had been showing these guys, he was showing them a CZ to begin with, a CZ75 that he walked, I think it was a CZ75, I'm not 100% sure, on the other side of the store, and he came back with it, and he's showing them all this stuff and flinging it around, and I'm like, okay, it's about time for me to go. And then he put this box back under the counter, and I don't know if it was the same handgun or a different one or what. All of a sudden, discharge on the sales side of the counter was staff at the store. And I'm like, okay. And I look, and nobody's bleeding. So I back up, and the guy's standing there with his hands over his ear. Oh my God. And, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, these were some of these cooler than everyone in the whole world tactical guys that know everything about everything. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just glad he had the muzzle going in a straight, you know, a safe direction. And it was kind of different. I'd never, you know, and this is a big store. So, you know, and they do gunsmithing and stuff. So they have a test place downstairs or adjacent or something. So every once in a while you hear a gunsmith shooting things that's kind of loud. So, I mean, I think people in the other store may not have even realized what happened. And, you know, it was a different experience. I'm just really glad no one got hurt. I don't know what the situation will be with the super cool guy that did it. He may not have a job anymore. I don't know. But it's funny because as time went on, I was in the store for a little bit longer. As time went on, it was like each individual staff member kind of wandered over there to see behind the counter where, you know, and I think he hit the cabinet and the floor. I'm not sure. I didn't see where it hit, but it was an interesting experience. I'd never seen anything like that in a store. And I thought of the Scotsman because he was talking about how customers are so scary. And I'm like, wow, this was on the other side of the counter. You know, the guy working there, you know, getting all jocular with customers. It's like, that's crazy stuff.
And it's amazing if you've never been in an indoor place where a firearm goes off, especially if it's unexpected. There's that momentary, it's disorienting. There's that the ear ringing, but it takes a moment for your brain to process. Is that really what happened? Okay, now maybe I should check if I'm bleeding.
Yeah.
Right. We don't. And I think that the takeaway from any of these instances is, you know, I'm a pilot, and, you know, if you fly retractable gear airplanes, when you're inexperienced, you seem to think that it's totally impossible to land an airplane with the wheels up, but it happens. Those things that it happens often when guys are distracted by other things. Every incident is a link of usually if you have like 4 or 5 things go wrong, you can handle it, but a lot of times number 6 is landing the airplane with the wheels up. You know, I think that's true with negligent discharges too. I think that, you know, this guy, you know, was overconfident in his knowledge and handling of firearms. I think it's easy to get into that mode. You know, and he was jocking around with these other guys, and it's, you know, they're telling their stories and everything else. And I think it's a lot easier to do something dumb than a lot of people think. And that's, you know, why I'm always, you know, with my son and anybody that I shoot with or whatever, you know, everybody's always like, check if it's loaded. I'm like, that's the number 2 rule. Number 1 rule is never point it at something you don't want to shoot, because that covers your bottom if it is loaded. You know, if it's loaded and you break the rule of pointing it at something, you can still have the accident. So, I mean,
I keep a bucket of sand in my garage, and if I'm doing anything with a firearm that's possibly loaded, I pointed at that bucket. I've never shot the bucket, but that bullet's not going to go through that sand, all the way through that sand.
You know, and
it will through drywall.
I think I've told James Bacon about it. I think when I was on the ship, I was on an aircraft carrier, and I was an air traffic controller, so I really wasn't, you know, aviation, Navy, it's a whole different ballgame. But we had a Marine detachment on the ship, and they did ceremony and they did security, and they ran the 50 cal for the close-in defense and stuff like that. And they call it the Marine detachment, and their hidey hole bunker, their barracks, whatever they call it when they're on a ship, their berthing area was on the third deck, and their access ladder was right by the forward mess decks on the ship. So the forward mess decks on the ship is where the fast food typically was. So if you were going to have the grilled cheese sandwich or the cheeseburger, you went to the forward mess decks. Well, two of my friends and I were down here to get lunch, and there was this Lance Corporal and a sergeant with him, and this kid's got a 45, and he was on watch or whatever, and they're relieving the watch, and I don't know what happened, but they had a clearing box. It's a steel box with a tube in it, and and when they hand their guns off, they stick the muzzle in it, and they drop the mag, stick the muzzle in, and clear. Well, the sergeant's screaming at this kid. He says, "Clear the weapon," and the kid sticks the barrel right in there, and he touches one off, and every piece of dust that had been in that mess decks for the last 50 years comes out of the ceiling and dirt, and we're all hitting the floor and our ears are ringing. It's like, what, a steel ship is terrible. I mean, it's awful noise. And then we hear this, "You stupid son of a bitch, I said clear the weapon," and the kid touches off another one. The next thing you know, there's like 3 Marines he's on the floor, and this 1911 spins across, and we're all like, "Whoa, look out now." So only twice have I ever seen that, and those are the 2 times. And I think that when you get distracted or whatever, so I try to learn from that, and I've twice come home from the range, and I always rack the action before I put the guns away to make sure they're clear and this and that and the other, and I try to be really good about that. Twice I've come home, and when I put the gun in the cabinet, I racked it and had one pop out. One of them was in a carbine, it's a little pistol caliber carbine, and it doesn't have last shot holdback. And I never thought that would be something that I could be that complacent with. So that cartridge is sitting in my gun safe there, on a piece of paper, and it says reminder. And it's like, you always have to consider that there might be one in there, even if it's only you touching it. You can make mistakes, and and gosh, I just would hate to have something happen, especially if my kid was home, and just it'd be awful. And I'm sure that guy at the gun store, I'm sure he's not going to sleep tonight. I'm sure that rocked his world because he's no longer 100% confident of his ability with firearms anymore. And that may be a good thing. I'm glad it was pointed in a safe direction and nobody got hurt. But boy, it's just one of those things where you could really have a awful situation happen.
We are just over 2 hours, so I say let's go ahead and call it. I got to apologize to Cranky. He came on, and we've mostly ignored him all night. But
it's all right. You guys just covered a lot of topics I didn't have a lot in.
He's used to 8 hours.
Well, being we've got the 4 of you still on, I'll open the floor to each of you and let you say whatever you want as we're closing. Let folks know what's coming up on your channels.
Did we get any questions? There hasn't been too much.
Looks like there's been some good discussion, but I haven't seen much in the way of questions in the few comments I've gotten to read.
Jacob Clowney did have a question. He said, "Why not make triple deuce out of 223? It's flipping everywhere." I agree, and I've heard of people doing that. I've wanted a 222 for a long time, and now I have one, and I wanted 222 brass for it. It's as simple as that. I don't have a better reason than that. I could probably make some. I would make sure I checked the neck thickness to make sure I didn't need to ream them or something of that nature. But, I think it's a valid idea. It's a very valid idea. It's just that I've wanted one of these a long time, and now I have one, and I wanted brass for it. So no reason other than that.
I think one of the common motivations for what we do in the reloading world is because I want to.
Yeah.
And that's about all it comes down to. So
I also bought in the same purchase today. There was an estate that was purchased by this shop recently, and the fellow was a bench rest shooter. And I got there a little bit too late, but I bought a whole bunch of swedged bullets that were swedged on a Corbin rig, and they're very nicely done. The guy sorted the donor jackets real, consistently, and looked like his QA on them was very good. So I bought like 400 of them to give a try. And I said, hey, what happened to the swaging press and the dies? And one of the guys at the shop bought it for himself. So I was like, man, I'd love to have a Corbin setup if I could get it at a fair price and try making some swedge bullets. It would be fun.
I went by an estate sale yesterday. They displayed everything they had online, and a little bit of reloading stuff, but a bunch of really nice firearms. I got there an hour after it opened. There was nothing.
They were doing a mass transfer for a lady who was liquidating her father's estate, and I just kind of caught wind this lady standing there, and they're, what they do is, I guess, is they have these auctions and the people win the bids, but they don't get the firearms right then, and then the owners take them to the FFL and they do the transfer in one block, and they can do multiples on it's an interesting process, and pulls out the first one, and it's a freaking gorgeous Model 24 Smith, 44 special. Looks just like a 29, but it's a 44 special. It's like a 6-inch, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. I said that thing's beautiful, and the lady says, well, thank you. It was my father's favorite. And I'm like, why are you selling it then? You should be keeping it. It was just gorgeous. And then he writes the paperwork up on that, and they pull the next one out of the case, and it's this pristine, I don't know what vintage, Model 17, the 22 rimfire version of the end frame. I'm like, man, there's two that I would probably open my wallet for. But anyway, I don't know what that 24 went for at this estate sale or auction or however they did it, but it did look like it was worth a chunk of change to me. It was very, very nice.
Well, let's kick it over to Josh. What's coming up on the 243 Outdoors?
Right now, I'm working on this Cast 223 where I've been shooting. They've got all the crops out, and about the last week, I've had farm equipment setting in the actual lane, so I couldn't shoot. But pretty much everything's cleaned out of there, and hopefully, I got a little bit of stuff going on tomorrow. So I don't know if it'll happen tomorrow, but maybe Monday. That I want to get out and shoot some through my Axis bolt gun and some through my AR. So I got identical loads made for both of them, and that's what I'm going to be playing with right now.
Outstanding. Any idea what you've got coming up in the near future, Cranky?
I got to figure out what I'm going to do as far as finishing my 38 350. The Lee bullet and the Arsenal bullet. I range where I can shoot it. It's just a busier range, and I prefer to use my other range. So what I'm going to do there, I'm going to try maybe some different targets to see what I can actually open sight at 50 yards. And actually get a decent sight picture. If I can get something working there, I'll finish up that video there. Worst case, I'll just trip to the other range to get that done. And then after that, I'm going to start playing with the got a bunch of the 55 Kyle sent me, and sent me some more 55 grain. So, and I'll be playing with some Cast 223.
Measuring Grain says you should try out Josh's range. He's got some range you can use.
Yeah.
It's not very busy, he says.
Yeah, can you hit that milk jug at 1,500 yards with open sight?
I can sling some lead at it.
The Social Regressive recently signed up as an author on the Reloaders Network. So what's coming up on the channel, Kyle?
Well, I have a few interesting reloading ones. I have been testing the new Federal Edge TLR bullets, and they're actually making those components now. And yeah, so far tests have been going well, very accurate, and they should be a really good long-range expanding bullet. Really slick, heavy, and then yeah, they should perform really well terminally. And then of course I got some of these gold dots that I'm working on for 308 as well. But yeah, probably the big stuff that I'm really going to be relying on the Reloaders Network for is, you know, a home to show the hand loading that I do for the next project rifle. I actually have the lights set up in the garage, ready to go. On Monday, I'm going to hit the ground running, actually filming. I've been teasing that 12FE project rifle for like a year now. I've at least had the rifle for a year. And yeah, I'm desperate to get that thing off the ground because I think it's going to be really fun. Target this time is a mile. And the target itself actually is like a 40 by 30 steel plate. And yeah, it's going to be good fun. It's still going to be a very budgety rifle. I ended up spending, I think, $2 more than I did on the Axis. So that's $223, I guess, instead of $221. That's a good number, 223. But yeah, I also have a really fun AR project that I might be trying out sometime in the near future. Going to be chatting with some folks about showing off products. It should be pretty fun.
Outstanding. Well, certainly appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's really nice to be in the Reloaders Network now. Yeah, looking forward to getting content out there that won't get the ban hammer.
Although I think this is the second live stream you've been on, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been trying to convince you to join, so I just went on ahead and had you on the live stream and sent you some merchandise. And
yeah, thank you. I meant to be wearing my Reloaders.
Did the cash check? Yeah, no. Or did the check cash? No. Mr. Chapin.
What's coming up on the channel?
Indeed. Some 222?
I've got an unopened envelope from Loads of Bacon. I could do a live unboxing. I think we've all seen what's in there. No, yeah, there you go. He's got one too. We could do like in stereo. Josh, you probably have one too, or did you already open it?
I don't have one.
What?
That's because Mike Treen steals his mail.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. No,
I just get mailed in the mailbox. That's it.
I've got a few things cooking that I really want to do, but I think I'm going to push them to the back burner because Josh's bullets have me really intrigued, especially since I've got this 222 nagging at me, and I'm thinking some of his bullets in that triple deuce just might be the thing. And Thorzax had said he'd like to see some of that, and I know he's fond of 788, so that'll be pretty good. And then I do want to get on. Georgia Boy has really been asking me about these heavy cast bullets in the Bushmaster, and I've got all the stuff around. I've got a whole slew of heavy cast bullets that we'd like to try in that and see how that goes. So I just the muffler put a big dent in all my plans, because when that came, it was kind of like, okay, everything stops and we shoot 300 blackout until we can't stand it anymore. And it's just. I think it must just be a new suppressor owner syndrome, because every time I pull the trigger, I just bust up laughing. It's just hilarious. And I even took my bullet trap to the range, and shooting even with the little bullets, it's fun. But I set the bullet trap at about 100 yards and just launch these things into it, and and the rifle makes the quiet noise, and it goes clank in the bullet trap. And it's just so much fun, and everybody laughs. And it's just neat. And then. I need to work a little bit more with my 6x45. I've got that dialed in pretty good, and I'm hoping to get it to a couple of matches, and that'll be something I've really wanted to do. So I'll probably have that coming up at some point. I don't know how I'll film it. Josh does real good filming the competitions. Maybe I should get him to come up and help me film or something, and go to a match and do that. But so there's a few things to play with, and then I think some of the guys over on Slack saw it. I finally found a new in the box 673 Remington, which is it's the redo of the old 600 carbine. It's modernized. It's built on the Model 7 action instead of the 600, and it's a 350 Rem mag. It's got the vent rib, the big shark fin, and it's funny you guys were asking about iron sights. I think I'm going to leave that one with iron sights and use it the way it's supposed to be used, and then I need to build some relationships so I can go hog hunting, because I just want to roll up a big hog with a 350 Rem mag. That's like on the bucket list.
Sounds like we're all heading to Arkansas to Preacher's Day off here soon.
Oh, if he invited me, I'd be there in a minute. You know, we could even fly down there. Josh, that'd be awesome. I'll stop and pick you up, and we'll go down there. But I would really like to hit a hog with a 350 Rem mag. Just, you know, so I think I'd leave this one open sights, and you know, it's got good sights on it, and event rib and all that. So you know, I looked at these rifles in 2003. And I just couldn't do it. It wasn't a real 600 and all that. But the more I've studied them, the more I realize it's actually better than a 600. It's got a 20-inch barrel instead of an 18.5-inch barrel. Or actually, it's 22-inch barrel. I'm sorry. The 660s had the 20-inch barrels. This one's 22. And it makes the 350 really come alive. I have a Ruger 77 in 350 Rem mag with a full-length barrel. And it's just a marvelous caliber when you put it in a big barrel. So I really want to try it. So... You know, it's too much rifle for anything we do in Michigan short of bear, and I've never aspired to bear hunt. But so those are things that are coming up. I'd like to get that out. The 788's definitely going to make an appearance. Some more stuff with the Mauser. I'd like to do that. I've been having a lot of fun shooting that. And then I'm going to do an Appleseed, but I'm going to do it with an AR-15. And I know that a lot of people have tried those with military rifles, and they always end up going back a second time with a rim fire to get their patch. But I can hit 1-inch squares at 25 yards all day long with my AR-15 with open sights. It's not a problem. And then for the distance day, I think I'll be fine. I've been practicing is what I'm saying. So, you know, the cost doesn't bother me. The ammo's fine. We'll do that. But I'm going to do one of those. They have them in Kalamazoo here, not too far. Now, I don't know how I'll film that either. But I've been practicing the position shooting a lot, and I think it'll be fine. So I'd like to do that. I should talk Josh into that. We should maybe do that together. That'd be a lot of fun. So, but those are the things I'd like to get going.
Outstanding.
All right.
Well, I think at one point we had neighborhood of, I wasn't watching too close, but I think we had about 60 folks on, but it still says we got 23, which is impressive. And some of them are like Cranky there. It's starting to approach midnight. So appreciate y'all hanging out. Look forward to doing this again sometime. I'm thinking the Scotsman has his weekly live stream tomorrow night, and then I haven't confirmed with him, but I'm assuming the Georgia connection, those guys are having their normal chat next Friday night. So, you know, we'll pull a little something from Highboy out here. If you're still on, why don't you type in your favorite caliber, and we'll read that off as we're signing out, and then we'll go ahead and hang this thing up.
Yeah.
So if you're still in the chat there, type in your favorite caliber or the first one that comes to mind, and then we'll kill this thing. And Meg's getting ready for a hat chat.
Nobody has a favorite, or else they all shoot suppressed and we can't hear what they're typing.
Yeah, that could be too. Eagle Eye Shooting, 300 AAC.
Eagle Eye, do you have a blackout? I didn't realize that you were a blackout guy.
Chico Wise, 45 ACP. Preacher's Day Off, 243 win.
Yeah, I'm with
you. Great round.
Mig's got
Reloader, 2250.
70.
I'm sorry, maybe Appalachian Reloader, depending on where he's from. So I apologize if I said that wrong. C-Tech 01, 45 ACP in Duckville, Missouri, 308.
With dot powder.
Well, of course. No 410 powder in that one. Eagle Eye says he does have a blackout. And possibly a can in the near future. Tread, 44 mag and 357 SIG. Uncle Jim is going to suppress the 44 mag. That's just a thing of beauty right there. Suppressed 44 mag. Jacob Clowney, 500 Smith & Wesson, LOL. It really moves the AR 500 plates. Yes, it does. Preacher's Day Off is LOL.
It moves anything it hits.
And the shooter.
When I had that one last spring, I went to my uncle's house and I shot one of his steel targets and I like twisted it at a 90-degree angle. I was like, I don't know what you want me to hit. Shoot it, it'll take it, and it didn't.
It's one of the things that's fun with the blackout and the suppressor. You shoot those big 230 grain lead bullets subsonic and you hit a steel plate, and the sound of the gun and the bullet flying isn't proportional to what it sounds like when it hits the steel, and you get that big old clank. And of course you don't have your ear protection on either, so it sounds even more impressive. So it's pretty funny. It's entertaining.
The big man's outdoors, 222 Valkyrie at this moment in time, and Mr. Parts for sale is 25,000 cast lead bullets too many.
It's a good start.
This is true. It's too many to. Well, I guess it's too many to put in your pocket at one time.
That's a lot of cars driving around with fires on it.
All right, we are a chatty crowd, and we tend to be, which is awesome. But if I don't kill this, it'll go on. Well, I was gonna say all night. It'll go on the full 8 hours, and then my wife will be angry, and I don't want her upset. I'm fighting strep throat right now. That's one of the joys of this week. So I think I'm going to try to get some rest myself. So
yeah, definitely.
Again, appreciate everybody coming on, and we will see you at the Reloaders Network, and we will see you in a future live stream as well.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.